I go back to class the next week and I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, what's happening here? Why won't you talk? And then someone very quietly, because this was very transgressive for this person to speak up, informs me that there's something called the Jante laws. And so I gathered around my Danish friends and I'm like, how do I make this happen? And they're just like, it isn't done. You don't make it happen. It isn't done. They take turns hitting this barrel pinata one at a time, one hit, one hit, one hit. And they go in a line and they get back in the line. They hit, hit, hit. Finally, it explodes with candy. The candy goes everywhere. Now, in my experience, it is survival of the fittest. If you want to get that good candy, you are jumping in there and grabbing those, Reese's peanut butter cups and Snickers. Not in Denmark. Yes, when I first got there, of course, prices seemed outrageous. However, you get a lot more back from the government.
I just said to Kenny, the best people who can kind of transmit a culture are outsiders. And you are this American woman who's lived in different parts of the world, but now you've ended up in Denmark.
In Denmark, yeah.
Yeah. How'd you get there?
Well, it's a love story, but I met my husband at an international conference and I left LA to move to Denmark, where I've been living now for about 15 years.
And so you are living in this communitarian culture.
Yes.
Very much like Korea.
Very much. It's so interesting that the Danish culture is really built around what you were talking about. Culture being oriented towards others instead of a culture being individual. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what was the most difficult part of the transition for you?
Am I only allowed to name one?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Name a bunch. I mean, because you're an American, right? So you're very individualistic in your orientation, or you were. But so how is that?
It was difficult to learn about fitting in with Danes because as Americans, we hear that Denmark is the happiest places on earth, right? So I went over there just joyful and happy to be there, and I wanted to talk to people and make new friends. And I've never had a problem with that before. But when I got there, I was noticing that people were very distancing themselves from me. And it really wasn't until I was introduced by my students at Aalborg University about the Jante laws, where everything started to make sense finally. Do you want me to talk about that, or do you want?
No, go for that. Yeah, we can go. This is everything we've been talking about here. So give us the Danish version of that.
Okay, so I'm teaching in a university class with about 110 students, and I taught at Penn State before I moved to Denmark. So I'm used to this very vivacious, engaging culture with my students, but I get to Aalborg University and it is silent. And I go home crying. What am I doing wrong? Why won't my students engage with me? And I go back to class the next week and I'm like, come on, y'all. Like, what's happening here? Why won't you talk? And then someone very quietly, because this was very transgressive for this person to speak up, informs me that there's something called the Jante laws. Whew. Okay, so there are about 10 of these laws, if you will, that are all about how, as a Dane, you are not allowed to think that you are different from the group, that you are special, that you are as good as the group, let alone you cannot think that you're better than anybody else. You are not smarter than anybody else. You're also not allowed to think that you're good at anything, by the way. And you're not allowed, Sam, you're not allowed to laugh at us. You also, you can't think that anybody cares about you or what you think or what your contribution is. And And by the way, don't think that you can teach us anything either. And then, the clincher is that there's this sort of funny kind of 11th law, which is, and by the way, we know things about you. So it's kind of held over your head so that you don't act out or act special. And so everybody's very quiet. It's very like group work, group settings, group exams, so on and so forth.
American, I can imagine
Yeah.
just how difficult that would be. Yeah. So you must have, so you got to learn constantly to tone it down,
Yes, this was
right?
so hard. Yes, I had to tone it down. I had to reel it way in. I came from LA where I was working in the film industry and the music industry. So it's just this very outgoing, vivacious culture. And that was not allowed. People had to discover my credentials, if you will, on their own. I wasn't allowed to really tell people what my credentials were. And I think maybe your students will think it's funny because sometimes we're walking around like, you know, don't you know who I am? I worked with famous people, but that is, you're not allowed to say things like that. But it's okay for them to discover it about you and ask you about it. I ran into um, things where I wanted to start my own business. And the business that I wanted to start was a bachelor's degree in creative writing in Denmark. And so I gathered around my Danish friends and I'm like, how do I make this happen? And they're just like, it isn't done. You don't make it happen. It isn't done. And so a few years into it being done, they are in a way they're like very attracted to this Americanness where I'm like, well, I'm gonna do it. And they're like, but you can't do it. And I'm like, but I'm gonna do it. And then at a point it's like, now it's done. And so there's this way of thinking where they're kind of attracted to the idea of the way that I go about breaking rules. Whereas they're also repulsed by it, but they're also intrigued by how to do it.
The laws of Jante, they sound very culturally arrogant. Like the culture is
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
shoving you down. With Korea, it
Yeah.
was very much, and it is very much, no, 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 that's not me, that's us.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So
yeah.
where's that balance that you find in Korea, or sorry, Denmark?
In Denmark? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, where is the balance between the individual and the community?
That is such a good question. I'm not sure I have the answer for it. Can I share a kind of funny story instead? There's something in Denmark called Fastelavn, and this is where the children dress up like Halloween costumes, but it's in the spring. And they hit something that's like a piñata, but it's actually supposed to be a cat in a barrel. I don't know. Anyway, I when I attended my first Fastelavn, this is where Danish culture really made sense to me. Um, they take turns hitting this barrel piñata one at a time, one hit, one hit, one hit. And they go in a line and they get back in the line. They hit, hit, hit. Finally, it explodes with candy. The candy goes everywhere. Now, in my experience, it is survival of the fittest. If you want to get that good candy, you are jumping in there and grabbing those, Reese's peanut butter cups and Snickers. Not in Denmark. Whoever the king or queen of Fastelavn is, the person who has bashed open this piñata, they get to pick one piece of candy, maybe two. And then they sit in a circle and they go around, and each kid gets to take two or three pieces at a time. And all of a sudden, everything really like clicked into place for me where I realized that there's this other idea where it's like we're all going to get the same amount of candy so we don't have to fight for it. And also, no matter if you're in the front of the line or the back of the line, you are going to get what is coming to you in the best sense of the word. You will get a better job. You will be able to buy a house. You will be able to afford new clothes. You will be, your turn will come. And so there's a lot of patience within the Danish culture that I really appreciate and I really love. We're not all necessarily scrambling for the same thing. Even if you're unemployed, the government takes care of you. You can get internships. They will find you a job. You're getting paid anyway. The unemployment is pretty much equal to the salary you were making. And that can go on for a few years. It's not like a very short-term thing. So there is, I realize the Yenta laws do, you describe them very well, but and I think that's because the author of them was writing a satirical fictional book. But but what is really behind it is really a culture of caring for one another. And it really starts at this incredibly young age.
So this is a salary of about $8,400 USD, which is about $100,000. So this is, I just picked it because it seemed like it would work. And look at Denmark compared to the United States. A lot more take-home money in the United States. I mean, and it's going to be more after deductions, right? And then look at the tax burden, 25% on everything. I buy a camera, I buy a book, I hire a plumber to come fix my house. Everything you're going to add 25% tax on all goods and services. My car. You buy a $50,000 car, it's going to cost you $75,000 just to register the car and get a license plate. Yeah, wait, 150? Oh yeah, 125,000. Yeah. It's going to cost you over $100,000 to register the car. You know what I mean? Like, think about these things, right? Now, but let's talk. So first off, when you start paying these taxes over there, you see them coming out of your paycheck. That must have been really tough. For you.
I'm going to respond with another story. So, as I was teaching at Aalborg University, I don't know, it's like April or May, and I check my bank account, and all of a sudden I have like 12,000 kroner there. And I get my husband, Steen, honey, the bank has made this huge mistake. I have 12,000 extra kroner in my bank account. We got to get them to take it back right away. And he's like, no, honey, that's your vacation money. I'm like, my what now? That's your vacation money. That's the money you get to go on vacation. So yes, when I first got there, of course, prices seemed outrageous. However, you get a lot more back from the government. I guess you have another slide about that, but
people here, they're like, oh, socialism is bad. All right, so this is basically the closest we're going to get to socialism here. So one thing that I said when I was texting Leanne was like, look, it's going to be really hard to be a millionaire, but it's not difficult to do really well and to be really comfortable. Schools and university are free. And then can you explain the Statens Uddannelse? I don't know how to say that.
Yes, Statens Uddannelse. It's we just call it SU, which means that all students get free tuition, plus they get a monthly stipend from the government. It's probably now about 1,100 US dollars a month. So that's supposed to help pay for rent, food, beer. Of course, it's expensive in Denmark.
It means everybody in this classroom would not be paying any money, and you'd get about $1,100 a month.
Yes.
Coming in your bank account every month.
Plus, you would be eligible for student housing, which is also about, I don't know, like, it's not very expensive at all.
So I got on this slide here. And it's good health care. It's not like, we over here, we'd like to say, oh yeah, but that health care is terrible. It's good health care. Elder care is free.
Yes.
Child care, heavily subsidized. right? Up to like 75 to 80% of the cost.
Like all of everything's covered to get pregnant and give birth. In fact, they pay you money when you deliver a baby. You get about 50,000 kroner. You also get something called børnepenge, which is child money, direct translation. And every quarter, you get paid by the government money to take care of your children, up until the age of 18. You also get unlimited sick leave in Denmark. If you're sick, you're sick. You stay home. There's none of this like if you work 30 days, you get like 75% of a vacation day. So by the end of the year, you've accrued 5 days of vacation. No, we all get basically 6 weeks of vacation plus an extra week plus national holidays. And then parents get these like health days for their children. Each parent can take each child out of school 2 days a year to just take them somewhere to have fun, basically.
So you have to deal with this idea that you're paying a lot of money for all of these other people around you. But because when I'm looking up here, I see healthcare, elder care, all of these things, right? But eventually you're going to get it back because you don't have to worry about your retirement, right? If you pay into the system, it's going to be taken care of for you because the government and people around you, because we are the government, people are going to just take care of you.
Yes.
And that's how it works.
Yes. There's
That must be hard for when you were now, like it's hard to trust that, or it must have been in the beginning to trust that
Yes,
for you.
absolutely. I'm an American. I need to have money in my savings account. I need to be building my wealth, et cetera, et cetera. And my husband is much more laissez-faire. Well, it'll be taken care of. Why would we worry about that? So that was definitely a big challenge to get over. Homeless people in Denmark have apartments and cell phones and jobs.
They're not truly homeless.
They're not truly
Yeah.
homeless. They are housed and they are fed and they are also given monthly stipends. There's a give and take here because of course not everyone is going to take advantage of all of these things. So I'm paying 25%, but I already have an education, so I'll never get free tuition or the monthly stipend. My husband and I don't have children, so we'll never get all of the børnepenge. But we will retire there. We will receive retirement money. We will be taken care of in terms of elderly when we become so. And so there is that kind of a sense of community where, yeah, some people are going to be paying for other people and not receiving the same benefits, if you don't partake in that particular thing, right?
You have to come to terms with that. Yeah. But the risk is that you're left on your own because the company you're working for downsizes and then you're stuck. Where do you see the competition, really? I mean, how do you see that?
I'm sure it exists, but I haven't really seen very much of it. There's more of an attitude that because the government's paying your tuition and paying you to go to school and become educated, it's also on the government. It's the government's responsibility to provide you with jobs. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
government has to employ you, and if the government can't provide a job for you after you graduate from college, that's the government's fault, and therefore they have to pay you via something called dagpenge, which is similar to unemployment but without any shame, right?
Oh my God. Hey, see that? If you had that, think all of those who are graduating seniors, you're going to be graduating in May, and your stomach's in a knot because you don't have a job yet. If you live there, you wouldn't have to worry about it. It's just like, all right, well, I'll get a job or I'll get this other thing.